Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guest, Patrick Page, is one of the most respected actors of his generation. He is also a renowned playwright and teacher. You know him from such shows as The Lion King, Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark, Casa Valentina, Spring Awakening, A Man for All Seasons, and from his stunning performance as Hades in the Tony Award-winning musical Hadestown. Well, now he is giving a career-defining performance as King Lear at Shakespeare Theatre Company, where it has just been extended for a third and final time, now through April 16th. Please say hello to my friend, Patrick Page.
Hello.
It is so great to see you. First off, how are you, my friend, and where are you?
I am great. I am in my cozy little apartment, which is right above the theater in Washington, D.C. And as you can see, I have lovely windows and I have beautiful light, and I just can pop right down and do the show and pop back up and sleep, which is pretty much all the old man King Lear allows me to do.
This has to be like an actor's dream, like, oh, I live above the theater during this. And then I go, no, I'm serious. I mean, this is like everybody's dream as an actor. Like, I live above the theater, I rest up here, then I go downstairs and I give a performance.
It's exactly every actor's dream. And you're reminding me when I was a little boy, I suppose I was about 3 years old. Uh, my father was an actor at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and because they didn't pay enough money for him to, have his little family. I was there with him, and my mother and my little brother were back in Spokane. But my father and I lived in what was called the Tiring House above the theater in the Elizabethan Theater, the Oregon Shakespeare Theater, a little bed. And so I sort of lived in an Elizabethan playhouse when I was a boy.
So this is like a full circle moment for you now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
listen, my friend, I have to congratulations on your King Lear. I mean, how did this Lear come about for you to do?
Uh, Simon Godwin is the artistic director of the Shakespeare Theatre Company. He took over for when Michael Kahn, who founded the company, retired several years ago. And I'm an associate artist of the theater, and we did an international search all over the world to find the best possible person to lead this theater. Simon is one of the world's top classical directors. He is an associate a director of the National Theatre of Great Britain, where he recently directed Much Ado About Nothing, the Romeo and Juliet you may have seen with Jesse Buckley and Josh Hawley on PBS, which was also from the National Theatre. Antony and Cleopatra with Ray Fiennes at the National. He did a very acclaimed production of Hamlet for the Royal Shakespeare Company, of Timon of Athens for the Royal Shakespeare Company with Catherine Hunter. So this is one of the world's top Shakespearean directors. Um, Somehow, the Shakespeare Theatre Company managed to get him to be their artistic director, although he still remains active in theatre in London as well, where he just recently directed a different Much Ado About Nothing in London, and then he directed one here as well in Washington. So when the pandemic hit, his plans for his season were sort of stymied, as everyone's were. And I had written him and said, well, perhaps we could do something with my one man show, All the Devils Are Here. And uh, he very graciously offered to make a film of it, which we did. And it was quite successful. It was reviewed very well, and it did well in terms of its streaming. And it was after that. So he and I worked on that a bit together, and in his role as artistic director. And we shot it on the Klein stage here, which is where I'm performing King Lear. And then afterwards, he said, "Well, what should we do next?" And he volunteered the idea of King Lear. and I thought I probably wouldn't get to Lear for the next 5 or 10 years. I'm 60 now, and which is a good age to play King Lear, but on the youngish side. And and so I said yes because I couldn't say no to this doing this role with this particular director at this particular theater. And so we held this slot really to our hearts as other things were possible for this slot. And as you know, I left Hadestown on December 30th and then went immediately into rehearsals for King Lear. And it's just all worked out marvelously.
Okay, what I was going to ask you is, I was going to ask you what you're enjoying the most. This is one of the greatest, iconic, mammoth roles in the Shakespeare canon. So, can I ask you what you're enjoying the most and what the challenges have been with tackling this incredible king?
Yeah, I think what I enjoyed the most was Simon's rehearsal process, which is um, in some ways very structured in that you feel you're very much part of a process which is considered and not just ad hoc, but is also very free and opens one up to the unconscious energies of the company. Really an extraordinary at company building. Lear is really an ensemble piece. We think of the title character, but one of the reasons the play is so notoriously hard to get right is that it really has about a dozen leading roles. And everybody has to be at the very top of their game. And so he's put together this marvelous company. And then through this extraordinary rehearsal process, um, made them into an ensemble. And and I think the other thing I would say I enjoy is I enjoy uh, being able to do a Lear which is fully contextualized in the 21st century. So often when we think about King Lear or when we see King Lear, we think of furs and robes and crowns and Stonehenge kind of setting or Elizabethan ruffs and that kind of thing. And that's all that's all fine. But it leaves us out in some ways. And we don't necessarily know who everybody is by the way they're dressed or by the rooms they're standing in. In this production, we know exactly who people are because you see Gloucester in the first scene, played by the marvelous Craig Wallace, and he's a four-star general, and you know who he is in Lear's administration. You see Shireen Babb, who in this wonderful piece of cross-gender casting is playing Kent, and we see her and we recognize her as sort of a Condoleezza Rice type advisor, and uh, and so when she steps forward to challenge Lear's foolishness, we know who she is immediately in a way that we don't when we see, the bearded, furred Kent step forward. And so that kind of contemporary context, when we see Goneril's house, and it's this beautiful modern living space with an obviously very expensive couch that's been trashed by Lear's knights and is covered with pizza boxes and litter and vodka bottles. We understand Goneril's point of view that these 100 knights have come in and have taken over her house in a way that's unacceptable. And so all of this contextualization, I think, makes the play immediate and understandable for us in a way that I've seen a great many Lears lately. I'd say within the last 10 years, I've seen at least a half a dozen. Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi and Anthony Sher and Michael Pennington and John Lithgow. And in every case, they've been productions which have been set in some remote uh, location and time. And so for me to be in a play that is so fully modern and contextualized, I think is one of the great joys of it.
Well, the other great thing about this is your production, you have such a new young audience that's been introduced to Shakespeare, which I think is absolutely amazing. What that means to you. I mean, the reviews for this production and your personal reviews are like unbelievable. First of all, do you read reviews?
I do, yeah. I don't have whatever strength the people summon who are able not to read reviews. I don't share their strength. I'm too curious, and my brain plays too many tricks on me for that. So, yes, I read them for better or for worse.
So I want to ask you, because I spoke to Julie Harris years ago, and Julie said, Richard, I read the good and I read the bad. I try to just put a barometer about everything, but I read them all. But like I said, what you've received for this production is incredible with everybody connected to it. And like I said, it's been extended for, I think, a third or fourth time or whatever. You're now through April 16th. I mean, you can't beg, borrow, or steal a seat to this. And like I said, you're reaching a whole new audience of young people being introduced, or even older people being introduced to Shakespeare for the very first time, and what that means to you as an actor and the future of the theater.
Well, it's everything to me.
Yeah.
You know, if you talk about having a mission or a meaning or a purpose in your life, that would be my mission and meaning and purpose. And that I found in these plays something worthwhile, something worth doing, something that I felt I could spend my life pursuing, and that would look. We're all looking for some meaning, aren't we? And that these plays address that. The questions of the play are big enough, uh, deep enough, profound enough that you can spend your life investigating these plays. And indeed, I've been investigating Lear for the last 40 years. Um, and and I will always find more in it. I will never get to the bottom of it. And so when you love something and when you see the value of something, you want to share it with somebody. If you go to a magnificent restaurant, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to tell everybody, you have to go to this restaurant. You must go. If you read a great novel, the first thing you want to do is say, you really must read this. You must. You want to share it with the people you love. So for me, it is everything that people seem to be connecting, and especially young people. And I thank Hadestown for a lot of that, because Hadestown brought me to a younger audience. And A.S. Mitchell's work, Rachel Chavkin's work, connected with a young audience that brought them then to me. And because of this magical time we live in, Richard, where I can communicate with them through Instagram, through Facebook, through Twitter, we through Cameo, we have relationship, and they come to the theater because I'm in it, and they might have been scared of Shakespeare before, but they built some trust with me personally, and so they come, and then they fall in love with the play and the playwright, and that is the greatest gift I could ever be given.
Yeah. You know, the Hadestown family, you know, I'm close to you and to Reeve and to Eva and everybody else. And I thought to myself, you know, not every show is like that. And there was something very special about Hadestown from the very beginning. You all banded together. And I'm sure it was a very hard decision for you to say, I'm going to leave this hit show. I mean,
Yeah.
were you fighting with that in your mind of should I, shouldn't I? I mean,
Well, if I let my mind into it, if I let my brain into it, I'm sure I would fight a lot. I made that decision from my heart rather than from my brain. There comes a time, and I've been in a number of long runs, as you know, and there comes a time when you know in your heart that it's time for you to leave. And your brain will argue with you. My goodness, this is a hit show. When are you going to be in another hit like this? You get this marvelous paycheck every Thursday. You're giving that up. You have this marvelous community of friends and audiences and an identity. You're taking away your identity as Hades and Hades, all of these things, and you just have to let that go and take the next step forward.
yeah,
And so that's what I did. But I must tell you, I still have dreams sometimes in the night where I think, what have I done? What have I done? How am I going to make a living?
Sounds like a Shakespeare character is really what it sounds like. But what made Hadestown so special for you, Patrick?
Well, part of it was the fact that I was involved with it from such an early stage of its inception, from the beginning at New York Theater Workshop in 2016, and the labs before that, through the Canadian production, through the production at the National Theatre in London, and through all the stages of development. That made it very special. But the material itself, um, is so special, and that I have evidence of that every day, of people telling me how important it is in their lives, that Hadestown has been a part of their engagements, of their weddings, that they people tell me that they've done the Hades and Persephone dance as their wedding dance, and to be part of people's lives in that way is just really, really special.
Yeah. But like you said, to have gone from Hadestown to King Lear, I mean, you went from one incredible family to a new one. But of course, you've known this family at the Shakespeare Theater Company. Let's talk about this wonderful theater in Washington and what this means to you, the Shakespeare Theater Company.
Well, first of all, I mean, let's look at the name of the theater, the Shakespeare Theater Company. So it is dedicated to doing vibrant, uh, exciting, thrilling productions of Shakespeare, not museum Shakespeare, but how do these plays live now? It's in the nation's capital. So Shakespeare is dealing, very frequently with kings and queens, with the question of how do we organize ourselves as a society? Who makes decisions? Who gets what? How much is taken? How much is given? These are all the questions that are being decided right here in these buildings that I can see out of my window in Washington, D.C. And the audience is filled with Congress people, senators, Supreme Court justices, lobbyists, uh, and the people who are making the decisions are being spoken to by, at the deepest level, by this playwright who's considering these questions in the most fundamental way. And a theater dedicated to Shakespeare, to what that means, the form of the plays, the way the plays are written, to making them accessible to audiences, but never pandering. Um, I think so many people, Richard, have been burned by their experiences at Shakespeare. They go because they are uh, they've been told there's some person that they love, a famous television star or a movie star, is starring in it, and they go and they hold their breath, and they're disappointed time and time again. They don't understand the play, or the play bores them, or the play's too long, uh, and they feel lost, and they feel frustrated, and they feel angry. And I know that's happened to me time and time and time again. And uh, and they blame the wrong people for this phenomenon. They blame one of two people. They either blame Shakespeare and say, "Oh, Shakespeare is just old and old fashioned, and it's not really all it's cut out to be. It's not the great thing that people think it is. It's a cultural relic." Or even worse, they blame themselves and they say, "Well, I'm just not smart enough for Shakespeare." And I've had really smart people tell me that. I just don't get it. And what they're doing is they're blaming the wrong people, because if that's happened to you, what's happened is you've gone to a production in which the artists making the production are not skilled enough, not trained enough, or haven't done their work. So the director hasn't fully understood the play. Maybe the director doesn't like the play. I've seen a lot of that recently. And so they try to make it into a different kind of play than it is. Or the actors aren't sufficiently skilled. Um, I use the example all the time of, I love some of my favorite singers are, let us say, Bruce Springsteen and Lady Gaga and Leonard Cohen and Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton. These are all extraordinary artists, but I don't want to hear any of them at the Met singing Tosca or Rigoletto. It's a different skill set, and it's a skill set that one has to train for, that one has to practice and practice and practice. And when it is done by a skilled artist, you in the audience will understand, you will be engaged, you will laugh, you will cry, um, and you will understand the greatness of the playwright. And so often nowadays, we're not given that opportunity. I gave the example recently of, if someone told you, "Oh, you need to try sushi," and you say, "Well, I don't like sushi," and you finally try and you go and you get bad sushi, and so you say, "I don't like sushi," and you try again, and maybe you go to a really good restaurant, a restaurant that is supposed to have terrific sushi, and for whatever reason you get another bad batch of sushi, and finally you say, "I just don't like sushi." Well, you've had several bad batches. You had a bad chef that night. You ordered the wrong thing for whatever reason. And the fact of the matter is, sushi, when prepared well and when you've ordered the right thing for you, is terrific. And you're going to love it when you get the right match. And that's the way it is with Shakespeare. And I have to admit that when I go to Shakespeare, 9 times out of 10, I'm disappointed. So I'm not surprised that an audience would be frightened. And that's why I'm so thrilled with the response to this production, that we have young people, people who've never seen Shakespeare before, saying, "I had a magnificent experience," and people who've seen 10 productions of King Lear, like Peter Marks at the Washington Post, who's seen more than 10, probably 50 or 60, saying it's the best Lear he's seen. That to me is so rewarding, and what I had hoped would happen.
Well, that's why I love this company. And like you said, it was started by the mighty Michael Kahn, who we all adore. So I'm thrilled about that. I have to ask you about season 2 of Schmigadoon, Chicago. When did you
Yes,
film it? And talk about your role in this. What can you tell us about season 2 of Schmigadoon?
we shot it last year over the spring and summer. When you have long days of long light as you can, and uh, it's a marvelous for me. Those musicals of the 60s and
Yeah,
70s, which are the ones being parodied in the second season, are those are the ones I grew up with.
me
So
too. Yeah,
Chicago, Pippin, Godspell, Sweeney Todd, Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean, that's where I live, And so, yes, our two leads, they go looking to find Schmigadoon again. They don't find Schmigadoon, but instead they find a new town, and the town is Chicago. And it's darker and sexier and more dangerous and bloodier. And there's a very important and dangerous man who sort of runs that town, and his name is Octavius Pratt, and he's played by yours truly.
love this. You've had so much fun between Schmigadoon and Spirited. I mean, you and I spoke a lot during that. I mean, how much fun was it doing Spirited and working with that incredible cast of Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds? And I mean, just being part of that incredible new Christmas musical.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. And I think it'll come back every year. I already get emails from people who've seen it, and it's not just a funny, touching
Yeah.
musical, but people take a lot of comfort from it. The whole idea of just do a little good, and make some ripples in the world, really touches people. And I hear from people who watch it with their family, who watched it 4, 5, 6 times. I just, I'm so grateful to be part of something like that. And we have the second season of The Gilded Age coming out, which is just like, Broadway royalty across the board. So many wonderful people. And the second season manages to top the first season. I've been seeing bits and pieces of it as I go into the recording studio to do a bit of ADR here and there, and it's just marvelous. And that, of course, is on HBO Plus.
Look at the life you have now. I mean, look what you've done in the past few years. You've always had this incredible career and the roles you've gone after. But I just love you that, you have The Gilded Age, you have Spirited, which will become this yearly Christmas, movie that everybody will watch, and now you have, you know, this King Lear. I mean, you're at the top of your game right now. I mean, you know, you've done a lot of not soul searching, but you've shifted in your life what you've done. Like, we had this conversation before. I mean, you stopped drinking, you're totally sober. I mean, I stopped 4 years ago. I mean, I loved my red wine. I know you loved your Jack Daniels or whatever, but it's just an interesting choice you made in your life when you made it. And now I look at your career, you always had a great career, but I feel like you're continuing to climb this mountain with this new Patrick now that's just taking you higher and higher. Would you agree?
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, that really touches me. Thank you. Um, yeah, and I think a lot of recovering alcoholics find that, which is you in a way you don't know what you're missing. You don't know how much energy there is. You don't know how much love there is out there available to you, and the universe just keeps opening, and it's such a gift. And one of the gifts, of course, is uh, being able to pass on that knowledge. I certainly, boy, do I understand the joy of having a good cocktail or a nice glass of red wine. And but for me, I'm not able to do that. And for me, it's certainly one of the best decisions of my life was when I said I'm not going to do that anymore.
But you've been an inspiration to so many people because you were you went on social media and you presented your story. You wrote that beautiful letter to Broadway World. I mean, you put it out there, and I know personally that you helped a lot of people. So I just want to thank you from the people that I've heard from. But I just feel like your whole career is taking you somewhere even higher and higher than you already were because of some
Oh,
of the
thank you.
made in your life. I also wanted to ask you, you're also one of the most renowned teachers, and I want to ask you what you enjoy the most about teaching.
Oh my goodness. I really think there are very few joys that equal teaching. There's a moment, especially when you're teaching acting, where you see the penny drop, you see the light bulb go on over the head, and you see a student step into their power. And boy, there's there's really nothing like that. Um, because when you when you learn to act, the fundamental qualities of learning to act truly and well are the fundamental qualities of learning to live truly and well. The ability to be present in the moment, to be in neither the past nor the future, the ability to listen, to really listen without projecting into the next moment what you might do. Um, the ability to be spontaneous, to act on your true impulse rather than something that you believe would be uh, the acceptable thing in that moment. Um, so that when someone is learning to act truly, they're learning they're stepping into themselves, not just as artists, not just as actors, but as human beings. So to be able to facilitate that in any way is just the greatest gift.
Yeah, just beautiful. Finally, you're going into the show has been extended. I mean, working with this company and just being a part of Lear and what it means to you personally, of just this production, what it means to you personally to be a part of this and where you are right now in your career and in your life.
Well, you've articulated it really well, Richard. It is a life achievement moment for me. I know how lucky I am. Uh, I'm grateful for how lucky I am. Um, if I could have shaped my life when I was in high school and said, what precisely down to the detail would you like to be doing uh, in March of your 60th year? I would have shaped it precisely this way. So I can say nothing more than that.
Beautifully put, my friend. Well, once again, Patrick Page is giving a career defining performance as King Lear at the Shakespeare Theatre Company. It has been extended for the third and final time through April 16th. For tickets, if they're available, I'm sure there's a wait. Is there a waiting? Can people get in still? Patrick, do you know? Is there a cancellation?
Yeah, yeah, I checked. Well, first of all, because we've extended, those weeks are largely available. And
Good.
also, I look online, and there's always, a couple of tickets here, a couple of tickets there. Uh, and so, yes, I think that if people want to see the show, they should be able to see the show. I hope so.
Well, look no further than ShakespeareTheatreRE.org for tickets to King Lear. Patrick, thank you so much for always sitting with me at Broadway World, being so honest. I love having conversations with you every few months and just catching up with you.
Thank you. Likewise. It's so great to see you.
Send my love to Paige and everybody. We will see you at the theater. Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.